do we find all this protein? This protein is found in animal foods predominantly. We can also find them in a handful of plants as well. But animal foods provide a much more better profile, if you will, of amino acids. They provide much more of them compared to plants. Some parts of a plant provide a whole heck of a lot of protein. Okay? Some plants themselves actually provide some decent amount of protein. Okay, soybeans, lentils, peanuts, peas, okay, legumes. They're going to be some pretty decent sources of it. Okay? Fruits, roots, stems, seeds, nuts. Various different parts of a plant can provide really good or really small, negligible amounts of protein. So if you're someone who is a vegetarian, you're going to probably have to supplement with something. And they make a number of fantastic vegan proteins now that you can buy that have the complete amino acid profile that you need. Okay. So there's a lot of fantastic choices out there that you can do if you are a vegetarian. Much more difficult, several years ago, not so much over the last couple of years, okay, with the advent of these vegan proteins with the amino acid profile properly inserted within it. But animal foods are generally going to be the choice when it comes to protein. Now, not all of our food sources are going to be equal. Okay? Here, I've given some examples of this. Okay? 3 ounces of lean ground beef provides 23 grams of protein. It's pretty good. 5.6 grams of fat. We compare that with broccoli and it provides 2 grams of protein. Very negligible fat. 3 ounces of almond supplies 18 grams of protein. 43 grams of fat. They're good sources. There's a lot of good fats there with those almonds. That's 23 pieces. That's a serving size. Okay, so that's 3 servings basically to get to that level. Typical serving size again is just 1 for almonds. So you can kind of see there, I got to eat 3 servings of almonds to get to that 18 grams of protein. So not all food sources are the same. And if you utilize Fitness Pal or some other, food calculators out there, they kind of show that a little bit in their breakdowns. Some of those food calculators are a little bit off. I've discovered over the years, but they're in the ballpark, and that's really good enough. I need all of those essential proteins. Okay, I need all those essential amino acids. Right. If I am missing just one, that's enough to really cause a slowing in the growth of an individual. Okay. And as an adult, who cares? Okay. Is it crucial that I get all of these essential amino acids every single day? Well, yes. But let's just say there's a handful of days where you didn't eat the best, okay, or you didn't get all of these essential amino acids for whatever reason. Okay. Nothing's going to really happen to you, probably. If you're a child and you're not getting high quality protein, animal-based proteins, then that's huge. Then that's going to severely slow or retard the growth of that individual. And they're not going to hit their mile markers at that certain time. Okay? Height, weight markers. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. Excuse me. All right. So these high quality proteins are going to be complete. Okay. If they're high quality, they are complete, which means they have all the essential aminos. Okay. Very well digested by the body and absorbed by the body. Fantastic. And again, these are all kind of animal-based products here. Low quality proteins are incomplete, which means they are missing an essential amino acid. Excuse me. It could be one, it could be more than one. It doesn't matter. All it has to do is have at least one missing. One. That's it. So there is no gray area. You either have them all or you don't. Okay. Low quality proteins are not easily digested. And plants aren't easily digested. They have a lot of fiber in them and you can't break that down. When we look at the profile, the amino acid profile of a food, invariably one amino acid is going to be not as robust in that food compared to the other ones. We refer to that lowest concentration of amino acid as the limiting amino acid. Limiting amino acid reduces the protein's ability to do all that fun stuff that we just saw with the complete protein. And a number of foods have a limiting protein. Okay, here is an example of limiting amino acids. Okay, right here. There are a number of limiting amino acids. Legumes are limited in methionine and cysteine. And I'm not going to ask you, legumes and what they're limited in, grains, what they're limited in. I'm not going to, require you to know all that nonsense. Okay, but you can kind of see with hummus, all I do is put some nuts with some legumes, and bam, chickpeas and couscous together. A lot of ethnic dishes are set up to be complementary, to give you that complete protein profile. Red beans and rice, they're both lacking something. The amino acid that they are limited in, they're high in. The one that they're limited in, they're high in. Put them together, and you get your complete amino acid profile. Lentil soup served with slivered almonds. Okay. Tofu, broccoli, and almonds give you the complete profile. Tortilla and beans. So a lot of ethnic dishes are already set up to give you that complete amino acid profile, even if they may be very, very low in something. Okay? Like chickpeas and couscous. Hummus. Who doesn't love hummus? Adding sesame seeds to a bean salad. So a lot of ethnic dishes are already built up, created to give you that complete amino acid profile. So even though you may have a number of limiting amino acids in what you eat, when you combine other things with them, you can create a complete amino acid profile, and now you're perfectly fine. For the most part, if you have an animal source in your diet at any point, you generally have a complete high quality protein. If you, again, as I said earlier, are more vegetarian in nature and don't eat a lot of meat or meat products, animal products. Soy proteins and quinoa, excuse me. These are the exceptions to the rule of plants being low quality. When you think of plants, when it comes to proteins, they're generally always low quality proteins. Quinoa and soy are the two exceptions. So if you are a vegetarian, you have to make sure that these are in your diet in a lot of places. Even if you're not a vegetarian, I mean, quinoa is a great source of protein. For soy protein to be just as effective as animal meat or as animal protein, it has to be processed first. And I think most soy is. There are a number of ways that we can measure the protein quality of a food. And it's already calculated and done, and we really don't have to do a whole hell of a lot of stuff. There are a number of labs out there that have already done this. They are compared to albumin, which is just egg white. That's the reference protein that we utilize. This is 100. Okay, it's the highest quality that we have. Everybody else is compared to that. Right? And again, this is really important for children. We have to make sure that they have high quality proteins in their diet. All it does is ensure that they grow at the proper pace. There are a vast number of methods that you can kind of see here that we'll kind of go into a little bit. Each one has a certain thing. I think I have it highlighted or underlined or something on the next slide, next few slides. But these are the three major methods. Now, there is a new method that they've just started to come out with, and I make reference to it. I'm not going to ask you about it on the exam. I even say that on the dang slide, okay? But I'll go over it a little bit because it is, slightly different. It's supposed to be more effective, right? These two, these two right here are older methods, okay? I'll just write these here. This is older. And this protein digestibility corrected amino acid score just rolls right off the tongue. The PDCAAS is a much more newer method. Okay. So I'll mention the older ones, but that protein digestibility corrected amino acid score is the more newer one. All of these have a bunch of different potential drawbacks and holes within them. That's why they had to come out with the PDCAAS version, the newer version. It's kind of interesting. You can read, I think there's actually a couple long papers discussing it and whatnot. But biological value is based on how well the body converts that food basically into structure. And you can kind of see, animal sources have high bioavailability or high biological value. Okay. And so animal sources are best. Okay. And that comes out here. All right. You can see plants vary quite a bit. You can see soybeans, tofu, whole wheat flour. I'm not going to ask you the percentages. It's just there to kind of give you an idea, kind of where they all are on the biological value. And that's how they figure out divided grams of nitrogen absorbed by the grams of nitrogen retained. Oops, there we go. Protein efficiency ratio looks at the ability of a protein to be able to support weight gain. Okay. Proteins make structure, structure as weight. There you go. So they look at the ability of structure to grow, and they look at weight gain compared to weight gain following consumption of a reference protein. Okay, casein is that reference protein for this thing here. Excuse me. So casein, milk, is the reference protein for protein efficiency ratio. All right. So 1 looks at just how fast we make structure. Protein efficiency ratio looks at the ability to support weight gain. And again, that's a major point of concern, I guess, when it comes to children. I need children to put on weight. If they're putting on weight, that means they're getting sufficient food. Brain's growing, all that stuff. How quickly it gets converted into tissue structure. 1, just looking at it from a weight gain standpoint. The newer method is the protein digestibility corrected amino acid score. Okay. This looks at the amino acid profile. Does it contain all the essentials? And its digestibility. This one, the scores are a little bit different. Like the other one, you saw it 100%. There's percentages here. The protein efficiency is just weight gain, so it's just weight, pounds. This one, you either have all the essentials, you have the essentials, but they're smaller in amount. They have a limiting amino acid, or they don't have it. And so you get a high score of 1 all the way down to 0.0, which doesn't have any amino acids in it. So that's how this one is. This PDCAAS is based upon the amino acids that are required for a child 2 to 5 years old to put on weight, to put on size. Okay. This is what this score is based off of. It looks at how basically effective the body was at absorbing these amino acids and ultimately putting on weight. Okay. If it doesn't absorb these amino acids, where are they going to go? In the pooper. Okay. So the scoring system is based upon samples taken at the end of the digestive cycle, which is to say how much nitrogen, how much is found within your bowel movements. There are a huge amount of criticisms when it comes to this protein digestibility corrected amino acid score, okay? Even though this is the preferred method that is used. For one, it's very old. It's about 25 years old, which doesn't sound old. The study was done on malnutrient 2 to 5 year olds, which means they would have been in a much more optimal state for absorption when given a complete amino acid. Fecal digestibility is not always reliable, and it can vary. It can vary a little bit in different age groups. We've also discovered as well. So this does have a few kind of holes in its effectiveness for reliability, probably the best way to put it. But this is the system that we look at. Okay, this looks at the profile of the amino acids. within the protein and our body's ability to digest it properly, digest it effectively. The newer one, and you can see I'm not going to test you on this. This one is a much newer one. Okay. It's much more appropriate, but there's only been, I think, maybe a handful of studies, 3, 5. I don't know. That's the only ones that I was able to find. It does not. Well, it's based on a pig model, which is a little bit more appropriate than rats when it comes to the digestive system. But it doesn't look at it across an entire digestive tract. It actually focuses on the ileum. Okay. So it looks at the absorption of the amino acids within the small intestine itself, instead of getting a fecal sample at the very end. Okay. Because again, that can overestimate the effectiveness in some cases. It also uses a reference point that's an older child, okay, rather than a 2-year-old. Again, the 2-year-old malnutrient individual who were utilized in that study 25 years ago. A lot of potential drawbacks with that kind of setup. This uses an older child, and as they start to become older, closer to an adolescent, closer to a teenager, you start to see a lot more closer to us. And so we get a much more effective look at truly how we are digesting and breaking this protein structure down. Okay, becomes way, way, way more of a better view of what the body is actually doing. So this is called the digestible indispensable amino acid score. I just love saying that name. It sounds so important. Okay, but there's only been like 3 to 5 studies, I believe. That's all I was able to find. And so this is something that they are trying to score, because not every protein is, even though this was started to be developed in 2013, not every food has been tested. Not every food, not every protein source has been studied and looked at yet. So this is, they have some things kind of referenced, but not everything. And that's why it's not in the textbook, for one, and I'm not going to ask you, but it's just there to show you. I mean, there's always scientific studies coming out, try to improve our ability to see how well we do utilize different macros, how we utilize and absorb different micros. So there's always studies going on, even though, I mean, these have been going on since the 1800s. Better science, better able to kind of see how our body truly uses this stuff. So it's fascinating. So this is just to give you an idea of, there's going to be more. There's always more stuff that comes out later on. How much protein should you be consuming? 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. Kilogram of body weight, multiply your weight in pounds by 0.45 or divide your weight by 2.2. Okay. Divide your weight by 2.2, and that gets you kilograms. Okay. Sorry. But there's your range. The book says 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight. That is what generally most textbooks say. But it depends on your, what do you do? Do you run long distance? You may need more. Do you power lift? You need more. Do you exercise, lift? You probably potentially need maybe potentially a little bit more than 0.8. okay? Maybe 0.9 to 1 grams per kilogram body weight, okay? But you can consume up to 2 grams per kilogram body weight and be perfectly fine, okay? Doesn't cause any excessive strain on the kidneys. There are different times throughout your life where you're going to need more protein, so hence the range as well. When you are pregnant, you're obviously going to need more protein. You're creating life from nothing, okay? So you're going to need more protein during that time to sustain you and the growing creature inside of you. Breastfeeding requires a whole hell of a lot more nutrients inside your body. Protein is just one of them. Again, you're making breast milk. Okay, so you're going to need a whole hell of a lot more protein. Periods of rapid growth until you're basically an adult. Okay? You get a vast amount of growth from that 0 to 1 year. And then slows down a little bit, and then kind of 2 to 3, you get another big burst. And then another big burst, and then a slowdown, and then another big burst. So when you're going through those periods of rapid growth, you're going to need more protein. And we'll talk about that at the very end of the semester. If you are in a disease state, okay, if you have serious illness, a blood loss, a burn, something where stress demand is being asked upon by the body to do more work, you're going to need potentially more protein just to help to recreate the structures that have been destroyed in the serious illness case, the destruction of structure.